World of lost languages and silent monuments. Few discoveries have changed how we hear the past the way one weathered slab did. Pulled from the rubble of a crumbling Egyptian wall in 1799, this stone would come to unlock voices long thought forever quiet. Tonight we'll follow its journey, the mystery, the mistakes, the rivalries, and the truths told as a single story so you can see how history really unfolded. Segment 1. What this stone actually is. The slab in the glass case is not small, just over a meter tall, heavy enough that a single person couldn't lift it. It's carved from granodiorite and bears the same message in 3 different scripts: the pictorial signs of hieroglyphs, a flowing Egyptian cursive called Demotic, and the familiar letters of ancient Greek. The inscription is a priestly proclamation honoring Ptolemy V, dated to about 196 BCE. That simple combination, 3 versions of the same text, is what makes the stone unique. A bilingual or trilingual window between worlds. Many stories suggest the moment it was found, everyone knew they'd discovered the one key that would solve hieroglyphs forever. The truth is more patient and less cinematic. To the soldiers who uncovered it, it was an odd carved stone in a wall, interesting, worth saving, but not a magical cipher handed down from the ancients. Its true importance rose in the hands of scholars, slowly as they compared the 3 scripts and began to see patterns. Segment 2. How it was found. The stone's modern story begins in July 1799 in the coastal town of Rashid, then known in English as Rosetta. French troops under Napoleon were repairing defenses at Fort Julien when workmen prized a block from a wall and noticed carved lines. Reused stone like this was common. Temples and tombs were pillaged for building material for centuries. That lost and rediscovered angle is a popular image, but the reality is prosaic. The piece had been reused in construction, not hidden in a tomb. Once it was unearthed, engineers and scholars quickly realized it was worth recording. Rubbings and copies were made and sent to learned centers around Europe. Word traveled faster than legend often allows. Segment 3. What's written on it? What the slab actually contains is not a secret prophecy or ancient code, but a civic religious announcement. Priests in Memphis declared praise for Ptolemy V, listing his benefactions, his religious gifts, and instructing that this proclamation be set up in temples across Egypt. The choice to inscribe it in 3 scripts reflects the complex society of Ptolemaic Egypt. The priestly audience versed in hieroglyphs, the wider Egyptian population reading Demotic, and Greek-speaking administrators. A common assumption has been that the Greek text is the most reliable version and therefore the best starting point. Greek certainly helped early translators. It was a language European scholars could read, but it isn't always the most literal rendering. In many places, the Demotic phrasing reads more naturally in Egyptian terms. Translation is an art as well as a science, and each version carries its own voice. Segment 4. How the language was unlocked. Scholars approached the stone like a puzzle box. An English polymath, Thomas Young, noticed that certain signs appeared inside cartouches, the ovals that often mark royal names, and suggested these signs were phonetic. A few years later, Jean-François Champollion, working with Young's observations and his own deep knowledge of Coptic, the late stage of Egyptian, realized hieroglyphs were not purely symbolic. They mixed sounds and ideas. In 1822, Champollion announced his reading, and for the first time in centuries, hieroglyphs could be spoken aloud. It's easy to tell a tidy story where one genius solves everything single-handedly. The real story is collaborative. Young, Ackerblad, Sylvestre de Sacy, and several others provided crucial clues and materials. Champollion's brilliance lay in synthesizing them and expressing the full system, but that synthesis depended on the work of many. Rivalries and national pride later amplified certain names over others, shaping the heroic version we often hear. Segment 5. Why the Rosetta Stone wasn't the whole story. The stone's 3 scripts were indispensable, but scholars didn't work in isolation with only that object. Other bilingual inscriptions texts found elsewhere, including the Nubaira stele and the Philly inscriptions, helped confirm readings and fill gaps. The Rosetta Stone accelerated the process dramatically. It was a major hinge in the door. But even without it, the patterns of language, other bilinguals, and further archaeological finds would likely have led to decipherment eventually, perhaps later, perhaps through a different route. Segment 6. The myths that caught on. With fame comes fiction. Over time, wild ideas attach themselves to the slab. One persistent fantasy is that it hides predictions or coded prophecies about modern events. Scholars who have read the text carefully say otherwise. The lines are political and religious praise, not prophecy. Another claim imagines alternative ethnic origins, that the inscription proves some modern group's ancestry or proves the rulers were foreign in a way that rewrites history. Language experts find no evidence for those readings. The text fits squarely into the known linguistic and cultural context of Ptolemaic Egypt. Some people suggest the British Museum is concealing a missing top section that would reveal earth-shattering secrets. The upper part was broken off long before its discovery. What remains has been thoroughly photographed, scanned, and studied. There's simply no hidden chapter waiting in a locked vault, only fragments and a huge body of careful scholarship available for anyone to consult. Segment 7. How the stone traveled and why that matters. After Napoleon's defeat, the stone changed hands as part of the political settlement in 1801. British agents took custody under the terms of the treaty, and by 1802, it was on display in London. For many, that movement is a neutral footnote of history. For others, it is a symbol of imperial appropriation. When Egypt asked for the stone's return, it's not a minor cultural request, it's about history and identity. The object is part of Egyptian heritage, and the debate over museum holdings and repatriation reflects a larger conversation over how nations recover what was taken during colonial eras. The museum's stewardship has made the stone accessible to millions, but the ethics of ownership remain contested and will likely remain so for a long time. Segment 8. Little-known details and human touches. The stone's public life has been oddly intimate. In the 19th century, visitors could lean in and touch the surface. Fingerprints and wear accumulated. During the Second World War, it was moved into a subterranean railway station to protect it from bombs. It has rarely left Britain. A notable exception was a month-long exhibit in Paris, and for much of its life, it has been a center of both scholarship and spectacle. People like to imagine it always sat pristine and untouched in a glass case. In reality, time and touch have shaped its condition. Modern conservation practices shield it behind glass and control humidity and light. The stone now receives the protection its long career demands. Final thoughts. Why the stone matters. The stone has outgrown itself. Rosetta Stone is now shorthand for any crucial clue that opens a closed world. Its real legacy is not only linguistic technique, but a reminder. Knowledge can be hidden in plain sight, waiting for patient, cumulative work. It encouraged a generation of philologists, changed museum practices, and sparked debates about culture, ownership, and how we read the past. So when you look at that dark slab in the museum, remember what it is and what it isn't. It's a multilingual decree from an ancient kingdom. It's not a crystal ball or a secret manual. The drama of its discovery and the mythology that followed are gripping, but the quieter truth of careful scholarship, of cooperation, and of contested history is far more revealing.